Now we have the primary recording finished. Now it's time to edit a little bit. Before we get into the editing, you may notice up here my timeline defaulted to measures instead of seconds. It kind of assumed I was going to be creating some music. I would like this to go back to seconds. So if I go up to the control, here's where I have the option. So I want to show timeline, the show time. Okay, so when I do that, now I have seconds, which is much preferred. Also, while I was recording, I could hear a metronome in my headset, and I would prefer not to have that. So under control is also where I can turn the metronome off. Okay, so when I record in the future, I won't hear that. Now I recorded 3 pieces: a little intro, which is kind of this front part, the main content, and then a little conclusion here on the end. Now I'm going to put some music in between, a little music loop in between each one of those places. So I'd like to split this into 3 clips instead of 1 clip. So if I'm going to split it, I select this track and select this clip of music, and I'm going to bring my cursor here to the spot where I want to make the cut. So I'm going to split it right there, and I can listen and make sure I'm in the right spot. I can kind of tell that's the right spot because I left a some silence in, so I get a nice flat line there. It makes it a little easier to see. Okay, so I get that selected, so I click on the track and then position my playhead, this red line, and all I need to do is go up to Edit and Split. If you notice, it becomes 2 separate clips. And I'm going to go down to the end here, and here is the other spot, so I could listen for a minute, which have endless possibilities. There's the silence. Thanks for listening. And now I can hear the conclusion, so I'm going to sort of select somewhere in the middle there, just right in the middle of that silence space that I took, and do the same thing. I'm going to split. Okay, now I've got 3 clips, and if I zoom all the way out, this is where I can zoom in and out here on my tracks, and there's a zoom here for the editing window as well, down at the bottom. But I've zoomed all the way out, and I can see those 3 pieces. Now I think I'd like about a little, 5, 6, 7, 8 seconds of intro music on the front. Then I'd like a little gap of a few seconds, 5 or 6 seconds of music in between as a transition, and also one here on the end. So I need to move these existing clips down the timeline a bit. So I'm just going to select them and drag down a few seconds. I'll drag down a bunch, and then I'll zoom in and be a little more careful here of where this goes. So there's 10 seconds. I can see my marker up there. If I want to know exactly, I move my playhead. As I'm moving the playhead, you can see down in the toolbar along the bottom, there is a seconds on the clock down here. I can see a second, so I'm going to put it right at 8 seconds, and then I can move this and it'll sort of help me get it positioned. Okay, so I'll have about 8 seconds of a little music loop that'll come in, and I'll do these other ones as we go. All right, so I'm going to now I would listen to this. Hello, this is Tim Stack, and welcome to episode. Okay, that first part sounds good. I'm going to go listen to the end, and it sounds fine. I don't have any bit of this that I need to delete, but just as a reminder, if I did have something on here that I needed to trim off, I could click and highlight it. Once it's highlighted, I could press delete on my keyboard or go up to edit and delete, and it will remove whatever I had selected, even if it was a piece in the middle here where I had coughed or something like that I needed to remove. Alright, so back to our music loops. So in the media browser, I'm going to go down to the media browser and go to audio. Now I have some loops of music that I wanted to use, and I've put them in a playlist within iTunes, and then when I do that, they show up here as part of the files that I have available to me. And I can select one and click the play button and listen to these and pick one. You can see they're all between 10 and 19 seconds, it looks like. Now the other loops that are available, if you click on the little eyeball icon down here, this will take us to the music loops that are available within GarageBand. So if I went through, I could find even here, and you can see it tells me their length. I want one that's not too long. Let's see if there's anything else. See, there's quite a few of them. Alright, so I'll pretend that. Let's see if I can find a short one here. Okay, so with all of these, you could spend a lot of time going through and finding the perfect one. Quadrilaterals are closed. Okay, I'm just going to use one of the ones that I have. You can get to it as well up here. You can see music. There's all sorts of things I can create in this loop browser. But really, I'm just going to use one of the pieces of music that I already have here out of my files. I think I'll use this little piece, Loop Acoustic Mellow. So if I want to use this in my project, all I need to do is drag and drop it out here pretty much anywhere, but it's going to, where that black line is flowing, that's where it's going to start. So I could drop it here, and it created its own track. Now I could have dropped that right onto this Jingles track. That's kind of why I left that track there. So if I drop it right there, it ends up on the Jingles track, and I want it to start right at 0. Okay, and I play that, and when it starts overlapping here with my audio recording, this is Tim Stack, and now the audio, the volume of that music loop turned down automatically a little bit. This is Tim Stack, but not quite enough. It's still hard to hear my voice. So what's happening here automatic is called ducking. And that's what these little arrows here. So by default, this one that I recorded on has a yellow up arrow. The one that was defaulted to hold one of these loops has a blue down arrow, which just means where they overlap, say right in here, this one with a blue down arrow will duck. The volume will automatically decrease. So that's kind of nice. But it didn't decrease quite enough. So I'm going to control the volume of this whole thing a little bit. Now I can control the volume of this whole track, so I'm just backing it off a little bit, and then I might go and listen to it again. Hello, this is Tim. Too soft, so move it up a bit. Hello, this is Tim Stack, and welcome to episode 1 of Tim's Math Podcast. In this episode, so it sounded about right. So that's happening automatically. If I wanted this to fade out to nothing, I would need to use the volume control where I can create my own fade, and in the next tutorial we'll talk about how to do that if I don't like this default ducking that is happening here, if I want more control. Okay, now I'm going to go and bring in a piece of music and put it in between each of these. So I'm going to drag another copy of this out and kind of set it in between here. So I'll have a little transition between each one of these. And then on the end, do the same thing. Don't need too many seconds in there, just a few. Put that right there in the middle, and maybe we'll have to listen to this, but maybe we'll have one more that comes up at the very end to kind of signal, hey, this thing's over. So it looks something like this. Okay, so I've put those loops in. I'm using these little music loops as transitions and signals that things are over. So I can see right now I'm up at a minute 30, and I can shorten that. This might be too long. Okay, in the next tutorial we're going to talk about controlling the volume of these loops that I've brought in.